Good morning. It's Tuesday, September 9th in Los Angeles, California, and I'm Janet McGilligan. Those of us on the West Coast woke up to the news that Israel had bombed Qatar, and their excuse was to kill Hamas. Well, you have to understand that most Americans look at Netanyahu and think he's gone insane. But I want you to understand who Netanyahu is and why the U.S. relationship has been so tight, and also that most American citizens don't understand the U.S.-Israeli history, and we look at Netanyahu, or at least I look at Netanyahu, and I think he's gone insane. So let me go back in time a little bit to help people understand who and what he is and why the U.S. has always supported him, at least the government, but now the people are turning against the Israelis. It does not mean that we are anti-Jew. I am not anti-Jewish. I am not talking about anti-Semitics here, but I am saying Netanyahu's gone too far, and I want you to understand how he came to be where he is and how the U.S.-Israeli relationship became so strong and why it did. So I'm going all the way back to when Gamal Abdel Nasser became the president of Egypt. He nationalized the Suez Canal. When Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal, here's what happened. The Brits and the French had built the Suez Canal. And the Suez Canal, of course, is this passageway that made international trade that much more viable. It cut through the desert of the Sinai, this amazing canal where ships could pass through it. So when Nasser said, you know what, that's Egyptian land and that belongs to us, the United States watched as the French and the Brits told this fledgling, failing country of Israel, hey, go attack the Egyptians and we're going to back you. By the way, our ally from World War II, because this was back in the 50s, so our ally from World War II will make sure that they support you too. But what the Brits and the French did not expect was that the President of the United States was Dwight D. Eisenhower. And Eisenhower looked at this and said, I don't think so. And this is the midst of the Cold War, where the United States and the Soviet Union were on the edge of nuclear war every other day. But during this time, Eisenhower stood next to Khrushchev at the UN and said, down with Israel. Well, the Israelis looked at that and they said, you know what? We are never going to survive in this world in a constant state of siege. And if we don't have one of the two world superpowers, we're done for. So who were they going to choose? The Soviet Union? I don't think so. And they decided they would cultivate the United States, and that's exactly what they did. So there was an organization called, and I want to read this correctly, the American Zionist Center for Public Relations. That was the precursor and the first name of AIPAC, which is one of the strongest lobbies in the United States. And I want to make sure you understand what I mean. Last year, in the 2024 political cycle, AIPAC donated to United States members of Congress and politicians $5.2 million for their campaigns. But that's not the important number. The important number is $38 million off the books. That is almost $75,000 for each and every member of Congress, whether that was to buy ads, whether that was to skirt the campaign finance laws. That's what AIPAC did. So when I tell Arabs, play the game, you got to play better than Israel. Because the Israelis look at AIPAC and they're very intelligent about how they target members who are not supporting them. And that's why Israel's needs, Israel's bombing, because, I mean, for gosh sakes, let's look at what they've done. in the last 2 years. They are creating genocide in Gaza. You cannot tell me that going to Sudan and saying, you take these Palestinians, because we're going to take Gaza. That is genocide, pure and simple. They went after Yemen. Why? Because they didn't like the Houthis. Who are the Houthis? They were asking for clarity on corruption. Then, who did they attack next? They attacked Iran, saying they're the ones who are funding Hamas, and Hamas is going after us. And so the Americans said, okay, you can have Iran. We don't like them anyway. And yesterday, I don't know if it's yesterday technically or this morning, they bombed Qatar, saying we're going to kill, Hamas there. So you've gone after 4, count them, 4 Muslim countries now. So there are 58 Muslim countries in the world. You're getting up there in terms of percentages, buddy. I think that Netanyahu has done more to destroy the Jewish identity and safety than anyone I've ever seen. And when the Israelis went and decided to start to cultivate the United States, they did it because Eisenhower went against Israel, not against the Jews, but against what Israel was doing, attacking Egypt. There was something called the Eisenhower Doctrine. And the Eisenhower Doctrine said, you withdraw from the Suez Canal and you return the land you took in 48 and 49. Now, Israel couldn't survive without the support of one of the 2 superpowers. But then let's look a little bit deeper into Netanyahu. Why is he, in my opinion, so insane? I think it goes back to the Entebbe raids. Now, the Entebbe raids are talking about what happened in Uganda, July 3rd and 4th in 1976, when there was a plane filled with Jewish passengers that was hijacked and taken to Entebbe, Uganda, on the borders of Lake Victoria. And Mossad went in to take it back. The one who was in charge of the raid was a former doctor and playwright named Edu Netanyahu. He was the younger brother of Bibi Netanyahu, who is now the prime minister. I believe that's what radicalized Netanyahu. He lost his brother, and by all accounts, Edu Netanyahu was a hero. Edu Netanyahu was highly decorated, highly loved, and he died in service of others. And I can't help but think that so much of the radicalization of Bibi Netanyahu goes right back to the Entebbe raids. And while I can understand him wanting to get revenge, the fact that he's used a country to do it is inexcusable. The fact that, in my opinion, he's taken the same lessons of the Jews being persecuted by the Nazis and used them on the Palestinians and now the rest of the Arab world is beyond the pale. And as an American, I cannot support this. I cannot be behind a man who would willingly kill discriminately or indiscriminately and go after 4 countries. And I would like to see the U.S. break this. I can't support Netanyahu. I cannot support this bombing, and I cannot support the craziness of him pushing the world to the brink of extinction. Thank you.